Hello everyone and welcome to TGP2. It is the final two races of the season and we are going to start off in USA. We have got two short qualifying formats for you guys tonight, which means more racing and more knowing what everyone's pace is like. In the championship then, it is 51 points, is it? 51 points? 51 points separate Alistair and Lewis. Um, I think Jack's made a little mistake there with the graphic. It is Lewis in P2, not CJ. CJ is in the Aston Martin. So CJ is eliminated out of the championship after what was a very scruffy race from him in Australia. It looked really good for him, and then a penalty really cost him everything. And yeah, he is now out of the championship. It is Alistair and Alistair and Lewis for the championship. 51 points separate them. Alistair needs to score just one singular point to win the championship tonight. So it is all in his favour. Lewis is going to need some sort of miracle and Alistair to have a hell of a lot of bad luck. In the constructors, and the constructors fight is not over either. 47 points separate Aston Martin and Red Bull, with a max points of 88 points in the two races we're going to be racing in tonight. Aston Martin need to outscore Red Bull, but I think it's 4 points. CJ said this earlier. I do apologise. I had it in my head, and it's disappeared out of my head. It was Aston need to avoid dropping 3 points to Red Bull in Kota to wrap up the constructors. So let's go into the session. It is dry, which I think all the drivers want to see. I'm just very quickly going to get the chat up on my laptop. I've got everything prepared today, somewhat. Which is what unusual for me, but it's what I like to see. I'm just going to quickly get the link to the stream as well, so the guys in the chat. I've meant to do it every week, but I always forget. I can't. X is over capacity. What? There we go. Okay, sorry. Trying to be prepared. Let's go on board with Lewis Craig on his lap. He is obviously needing a flawless weekend in USA and Texas, Abu Dhabi. Sorry, I am knackered. It's been a long day. Let me get to the track map up. I say I was prepared, but I haven't. I've been actually really slow. Okay, so into turn 11 does Lewis go onto the long straight. Very interesting straight this. You kind of want to stay on the right, which Lewis isn't doing so much. You want to run on that right curb, and then you can corner cut quite a bit of back corner. You could have taken more curb, but anyway, step 2, a 1 minute 2.6. Now, brake heavy into this slow left. Get on the throttle early. Be careful with the traction. I think he runs medium traction, so it doesn't matter. And I think his ERS is very high for this lap. As he comes through the fast left-hander, don't take the IndyCar line, into the last corner, turn 20. What is the lap going to be? 32.8. Interesting stuff from the Williams driver. What can the Red Bull driver of Alistair do as he comes through fast left-hander into the final corner? What lap is this going to be? Is it going to be pole position provisionally? It won't. He's 2 tenths off that lap as Luca goes another 2 tenths off Alistair's lap. Bear in mind these guys have done their laps on mediums, which is actually very impressive from those guys. Next up we have Jake Warrior. Obviously I think it was his first race last week or the week before. He is in the Sauber, and what is he going to be able to do? He puts it 5th place at 1:33.8. Jack Craig across the line on the medium tyres of 36.8. I'm going to presume he might have made a few mistakes in that lap. Here comes Chris Johnson through the final corner. Let's see what the Haas driver can do. Puts it up to P6 as a 1:33.8. Interesting, we've got a fair few medium runners in this qualifying session here. So yeah, I'm interested by the fact that these guys are on the medium tyres. That's actually caught me off guard, but I presume that is just to, maybe get a few laps in and whatnot. As I say that, have I just seen a bit of rain, or am I going crazy? I think I'm going crazy. I thought I saw a drop of rain, but I think it's just pixels. I was going to say watch on board with Deck, but he has invalidated. Let's watch on board with Rebel Kim, who hasn't had the best season, we'll be honest. But it doesn't matter. He has turned up to nearly every race, and for that I really do, I respect that, because I know a lot of people would have just given up and just quit. So the fact he has stuck it out the whole season despite having a really, I'd say, quite poor season, I respect it a lot, and I think, yeah, he deserves a lot of praise. As he's ran wide, but somehow managed to keep it validated. What is this lap going to be from the RB driver? As he comes through the final corner. It's not going to be fastest. It is going to be a 1:41.5. Puts him dead last. Well, I said dead last. Out of the drivers who have set a lap. P9 behind his teammate Jack Pearson, who is at 1:37.4. I presume these laps haven't been the cleanest. So yeah, everyone is now in the pits. I was going to say Arsus Jack Craig was doing another lap, but he isn't. I don't think. He's on none, so it's definitely not this lap. Did he go for another run, I wonder? So yeah, everyone's kind of on in laps or out laps now. Let me just mute my laptop. That's not only good to anyone. Yeah, so we will go on. I think, who's the top guy out of these guys? Okay, let's watch on board with Daniel. Daniel Price, who was doing quite well in a league yesterday until the final lap, I think it was. Nearly won the championship, but unfortunately missed out. So he's in good form at the moment. He had a quite good few races last 3 races, I believe. So yeah, he's probably been the improvement of the season, as Dan. So we'll see what he does on his lap. Currently P4 with 33.4, only 6 tenths off Lewis Craig. Just a little side note as well, Alistair and Luca are now soft tyres, which means they are now going to set proper lap times. So let's go on board with a lap of Kota with Dan Price. Here we go then, final corner, get on the throttle early now. He burns his ERS on the straight. You have to make sure you nail turn 1 to get a good flow into pretty much the whole of sector 1. Misses the apex on the inside, but gets a really good exit on the outside. It's now the sweeping left right, turn 3, 4, 5, and then turn 6. Decent so far. Into turn 7, quite hard to get nailed as he has invalidated that lap and backs off. So we will now go on board let's go on board with Alistair. We went on board with Lewis last time. Let's go on board with our championship leader as he goes through the S section. 1/10 up in sector 1 already as he goes through 8 and 9. Very hard set of corners. These probably the hardest of the track, I would say. A lot of people would say sector 3, but I think It's one of the difficult ones. Into turn 11, get on the throttle early, third gear, good gear I think to say, to get through on the straight. Long straight now, again, just full throttle, make sure you manage your ERS properly. Backside corner, you can corner cut, but he takes it safe. 3 attempts up and currently purple sector 2 and 1. As you go into turn 16, brake late, clip the apex on the inside, beautifully done by Alistar, but gets a bit wobbly on the exit and has that cost him all the time as you now go through turn 17 and 18, the long sweeping right, and then fling the car into turn 19 and the final corner. Is this going to be fastest lap, or will that mistake have cost him as he's very squirrely again on the exit? And it's a 32.6, not a terrible lap from the Red Bull driver, as Luca he improves his time, but it doesn't move him up anywhere. What can Lewis Craig do? He goes fastest. What a lap. 32.2 from the Williams driver. That puts him in provisional pole by a solid margin. Alistair, obviously, he had a really good run, and then it just kind of, the tyres almost like faded away in the final sections of the race. Let's watch on board with, is CJ on the lap? No, he isn't. Deck is. Let's see what Deck can do as he comes across the line. He's used all his deployment, puts himself P4, not bad from Deck. Who was it I was watching on board with? I was watching Chris Johnson. There he is. What is he going to be able to put in his hat? He was 5 times up on his lap. He moves himself up to P4, only 20 milliseconds away from Luca. Let's watch on board with CJ. Obviously was a title protagonist up to last week. He has been on great form. He's just been, I'd say, really unlucky and, yeah, unfortunate, I'd say. He obviously didn't start the first few races, but nor did Alistair, which is why Alistair's championship is, if he wins it, which is looking very likely, more and more impressive. CJ, purple sector 2 according to the game. So yeah, I'd say CJ's season, it's gone well. I know he didn't win the title, and he lost it in probably one of the hardest ways possible last week, but all things considered, he can still get second place in the standings tonight, and I'd still be happy with third place if I was CJ. Anyway, as the Aston Martin driver comes through the final corner, a little bit scribbly again. Only P7 from the Aston Martin driver. Not the most impressive lap I have seen from him. Is there anyone else on a lap? I think Jake Warrior. Yes, he is on a lap. But a little bit of traffic ahead of him. Not going to get in his way though, as he has also used his deployment. Wonder how these guys are using their deployment so early. As Jake Warrior, 5th place. Good lap from the Sauber driver, Kick Sauber driver, or whatever you identify that car as. Oh, he's off, letting everyone through. Let's watch on board with Jack Craig, obviously the main admin in the league this season. He started off the season really well, and then I think he's just had quite a bit of bad luck as the McLaren driver, which, yeah, I think he deserves to be higher in the standings than he is. That's my personal opinion anyway, as he goes onto the long straight. Yeah, I think Jack, where is he now? I think he's, oh, I don't currently have it on me. Wait. I should have been more prepared. He is... I had this whole thing in my head. He's currently... He's not on it. Oh, there he is. P13. He's 13th with 68 points. So, again, I think he should be top 10. Oh, that's not a line you want to be taking there, Jack. Let's see what this line would have got him, even with that track extension. That would have put him with 33.3 would have put him ahead of, I don't know, just behind Deck, I think it was. So, not a terrible lap there from Jack. Just invalidated in the last corner. Is Dan on a lap? He is on a lap. Let's see what he can set. the Mercedes driver. I think this might be his final lap. Puts in P5, 33.2, not a terrible lap from the Mercedes driver. So, into the final 3 minutes of the session then. Is Jack Pearson on a lap? I think he is. Let's watch on board with the RB driver. Again, another driver who I'd say has actually impressed me. Going into the season, I got told he was doing like half an hour on the game. And he's joined the league. Ooh, big oversteer moment there from the RB driver. He's currently P7, which isn't too bad in the standings. He moves up to P9 on the grid though, as there is a Ferrari, I think that's Luca, who is starting his lap in the Ferrari car. Ooh, that's one way to get out of the way. Luca's had a good season as well. I think there's been a lot of times where he's bottled. He obviously missed a week, which 3 races is a lot of races to miss. Again, one of the guys who was in the title fight got eliminated last week with CJ, though he probably was looking the least likely out of the 4 of them. So yeah, Luca, not a terrible season from the Ferrari driver, but I'm sure he probably wanted more out of the season. But if I'm him, I'd take P4, and he can just about get CJ if CJ pretty much gets no results, and that is such a horrible way to invalidate. That was painful to watch. Why are you running off the circuit on a straight? Oh dear. That's a fumble. Right. Okay, that's caught me off guard. We have 1 minute 35 seconds left. That is a laggy Red Bull of Jess, who I think's just rejoined. She's really lagging. Jess doesn't normally have internet issues, but I do believe for some reason everything seems to be going down today, so maybe it's my Wi-Fi. Who knows? So, we will watch on board with Alistair first. He is the earliest on the lap. Red Bull Kim gets a 5-place grid penalty with a collision with his teammate. Interesting as you don't want to be doing that, Alistair, to your teammate. Oh, dearie me, that was so close. Teammates maybe not gonna get in trouble, but wow. Okay, so both RB and Red Bull drivers having collisions and blocking each other. Thankfully Jess wasn't on a lap, but wow, that was close. Anyway, Alistair going through turns 6 and 7, he is 61 milliseconds down on his first sector, so not the first sector he wants. He needs to make it all up in the second and third sector as he goes through turn 10 into 11. I struggle with this corner. You want to clip the apex on the inside, but then also get a really good run. Alistair's done that pretty well, if you ask me, from the Scotsman, as he goes down the long straight. Don't do what Luca does, well did, and just run off the circuit. I'm shocked by that. Into turn 12, clip the apex nicely. Again, wiggly on the exit. Again, he is a 10th up, and apparently purple sector 2. However, only a 10th up on his own lap. It must mean he lost a lot of time in the final sector. Deck moves himself up to 3rd. That is a good lap from the Aston Martin driver. As we watch on board with Alistair as he goes through the fast left-hander. Don't invalidate. Ooh, he got very close to it. You have to correct the steering a little bit then. Into the final corner. What is it going to be from the Scotsman? It is not pole position. He cannot get pole position at the moment. It's P2. What can Lewis do? Is he up on his lap time? He does have a car ahead of him. Is that affecting Lewis? I guess we'll find out as we go through the final corner. I think that's CJ ahead. As, wow, what a lap from Lewis Craig. A 32.0. I'm sure he is very, very happy with that lap time. Jake Warrior comes across the line, P6. Good qualifying from him. Mick Schumacher is going to come across the line and will put himself in, I think that is P9. So, Lewis Craig, he keeps saying he just wants a win tonight. Well, he's got in pole position. He's halfway there. So, yeah, there is your starting order for tonight. Lewis Craig, 2 tenths ahead of Alistair. Chris Johnson, good qualifying. I didn't realise. That's P3 from the Haas driver. Deck in P4, good qualifying from him. Luca down in P5 could have been a better qualifying, but Jake Warrior P6, impressive. Dan in 7th, CJ down in 8th place. Mick Schumacher 9th, Jack Pearson 10th, Jack Craig 11th, Say Sports 12th, Red Bull Kim 13th, Jess 14th, and Neil Jack 15th. Red Bull Kim 5 grid drop for the collision. I don't know what happened between the two RB drivers, but yeah, interesting. I really don't get where that's come from. As Dom, meanwhile, I know he's listening to this, he has already posted the tweet of Alistair winning the championship. Oh, okay, so because Alex hadn't shown up, Alistair was technically champion. But because now Alex has turned up, Alistair is not champion. It's like the Formula Academy, I think it was, the other day where they had it for a second, and then they just lost it. So Alistair's sitting there like, damn it, while Lewis is like, maybe. But one DNF, and it is all over for Lewis, and that means any DNF in any of the races. What he needs is Alistair to DNF. So here we go, 2, 3, 4, 5 red lights for the United States Grand Prix. It is lights out, and away we go. Who got the better start? I think Alistair might have. Yes, he did. Alistair into the lead of the race. Who goes deeper into turn 1? Alistair's got the inside line. It is Alistair Bain who leads us into turn 1. From Lewis Craig, from Luca, from Chris Johnson, Deck, and Jack Pearson has had a brilliant start at the P6. Mick Schumacher 7th as Neil Jack and Jake Warriors. That is a Mercedes round. I think that's Daniel Price. It is. He's dropped all the way down to 12th, as Jake has also dropped down to 15th. Not the start they wanted, but here's Alistair, who has the dream start in the Red Bull. He leads, and as it stands, will be champion, and I won't celebrate it early this time, because I will now know for certain. As we go into the straight, tell you what, Luca is not looking too shabby. Let's look at the tyres very quickly. Softs for Alistair, mediums for Lewis, Luca, and Chris Johnson. Deck on hard tyres. It's interesting. There's battling going on behind, as I think CJ is somehow making a move on Jess, who is lagging everywhere. He moves himself up to P12. He is on a recovery drive. He did start higher up than 12, so I wonder if he's had a bit of a scruffy start, as Jess is really lagging, as Jake has smashed into the back of Red Bull Kim, really just outbroke himself, and that is front wing damage. Went from hero to zero, really. He was looking really good in quali, and is now drop dead last. As Alistair fastest lap of the race, he starts us onto the second lap. Lewis, all he has to do really is stick to Alistair. He is going to be on the better tyre in just a few laps. Tyre wear around here is tragic. So all Alistair has to do, not Alistair, Lewis, all he has to do is stick with him and then hit onto the softs at the end, I imagine. I don't imagine these guys going on hard, so I feel like that would be quite a silly thing to do. But then again, I mean, Dex in 5th, he's on hards. So he is having Jack Pearson all over him, as Jake has gone on to hards. But let's go to the lead. Let's see what Lewis will do. Will he sit behind, or will he make the move early and try to go for it straight away? He is harvesting ERS, so no move there, as Jack Pearson gets past Deck into P5. So I was going to run into the back of him then. As at the moment, tell you what, Aston Martin aren't performing as well as I thought they were going to. Deck's okay in 6th, but CJ down in P11, that's not what he wants to see. As Kim and Jess are going side by side. Someone needs to tell Jess that her internet is slightly broken. That's if it might be on my side because desync on this game's terrible. But I mean, I'll message on the group chat later to double check if it's just me or not. It's not a beautiful sight, let's say that. Lewis stays behind Alistair, so at the moment it's a three-way fight for the win. It's a two-way fight, obviously, for the championship, as Neil Jack around the outside of Sayer Sports. Will Jack have a look at his teammate? No, he won't for now. So yeah, at the moment, we have a fight between Alistair, Lewis, and Luca. As Mick Schumacher's already got himself a 3-second time penalty. That is not the best move you want to make on lap 3. As Luca is breathing all down Lewis' neck. But yeah, this is really like a title fight, like on track. We've got Alistair versus Lewis Craig for the title. Obviously, you know, all Alistair has to do is score a point, as Luca is going to go down the inside of both of them as they go 3 wide into the braking zone, and Luca takes the lead of the race from Lewis, and Alistair drops down to P3. Loses it all into one corner. I knew Luca was attacking Lewis a bit there, but I didn't expect him to go for Alistair as well. And now Alistair is behind on this train. Could that... I mean, again, Alistair's going to pretty much have to DNF in this race to cost him the title, but I'm sure if I'm Alistair, I want to win the title with a win. So, he's probably not going to be very happy with that. But now this is like Lewis is kind of like, he's going to have confidence. He knows like his title rival is behind him. He's going to have to do some good moves to get himself into the lead, aka just press the overtake button. But yeah, CJ and Jack Craig going side by side. I think CJ might have half spun. I think CJ might be having some setup issues, I'd say. That's my excuse for him. Because he seems to be struggling on traction and just pace in general. It's not very usual for CJ, at least in TGP2. Here we go, lap 4 onto the long straight. What will we see happen? Will Lewis make any moves this time? He's burning his ERS. He's got his DRS, and it should be a very easy move from the Williams driver, and it is. Will Alistair make a move? I think he's going to sit behind for now. He does. Lewis takes the lead as Deck goes up the inside of Jack Pearson into P5, as CJ is still fighting these McLarens. Moves himself up to P10 ahead of Sayer Sports, who is now down to P11 as Daniel and Sayer Sports side by side. And Sayer Sports have went from 10th to 12th in a space of not even a sector. Here we go then. These guys up at the top again. Did Luca maybe run a little bit wide then? It was definitely close for the Ferrari driver as we start lap 5. Alistair's tyre is maybe not looking the best of shapes now. He's going to be thinking about pitting at some point as Luca just, telling Lewis, waving, hello, I'm in your mirrors, but doesn't make the move for now, anyway. So, I think at this point it is just a strategic game, just kind of, Alistair's dropped right back. Yeah, it's just strategic. Lewis. Oh, Lewis. You can't be getting 3-second time penalties in an important race like this. I know it wasn't looking good for you. CJ's got a 3-second time penalty. These guys were fighting for the championship at one point. Well, they're not showing it right now. As, here we go then. Will Luca make the move on Lewis? He's going to go down the inside. Pretty easy move from the Ferrari driver. Lewis is going to try and fight it, but yeah, Luca makes the move stick. But like I was saying, if you're Lewis, you don't want to be making silly mistakes like that. CJ and Jack Craig going side by side. These two have been fighting most of the race here. As Jack Craig's going to try and go around the outside. Can't make it. Could he send it down the inside of here? Oh, he's going to try and go around the outside. Maybe go for the switchback. No, CJ defends it for now. as Alistair's maybe going to have to think about pitting. He is way out of the DRS range. As Lewis, he has got a mountain to climb, a mighty mountain to climb as he goes around the outside of Luca. Luca's going to break later though, he's defending this. He doesn't care about the title, he just wants to win the race. But, oh, Lewis is still hanging around the outside. They need to be careful here, there's contact between the two of them. But, ultimately, Lewis gets ahead. I don't think there was any damage, I think it was just the cars having a bit of confetti. I don't know what they're celebrating. Maybe Red Bull's constructors title, though, at the moment. It's not looking likely still, regardless of Aston Martin's not great weekend. Jack Pearson 3-second time penalty. He is in 6th place, not a bad drive from him so far, as we go on to the long straight again, the DRS zone, where everyone overtakes. Luke up, easy move from the Ferrari driver. Lewis isn't even going to bother. As Alistair really needs to be careful here. He is losing, I'll say that, he's gained a bit of time. He's losing time to these guys. And yeah, needs to be just be a bit careful, because obviously when you lose the DRS, you know, you're stuck, aren't you? As he's got, yeah, his tyres are dead. To be honest, I'm expecting these guys to pit at some point as well. As we begin lap 7, surely Alistair pits. He's staying out, really? What's his strategy here? I don't know. Says Sports 3-second time penalty as Lewis, DRS open. Nothing being done yet. We're going to look to what's happened to that McLaren. That exit. Yeah. Sorry, my throat's really dry. So far, a bit neutralised now at this point. Not really much happening at this section of the lap, but we'll go up to these guys, and suddenly they're all fighting for position. So, CJ's made a move on Neil Jack. I have a feeling it was a good move, and CJ's going to be like, how did you miss that? I do apologise. Let's go back to the front. As Lewis on the back of Lucas, it's going to be an easy move for him. He sits behind for now, actually. Okay, interesting. He can't be running well like that. That's rain. Is that rain? Is that rain? It's raining, I think. Is that rain? Am I going crazy again? I thought I saw rain in qualifying, but there's Jack Craig up to P10. I think it was dirt. Because I can't see rain on these guys' visors. But then it'd explain why Alistair's in softs. Yeah, there you go. That's the rain. It is raining here in Texas. As we start lap 8, we've got only 6 laps to go. What do people do in this situation? If you're the likes of Alistair, you've now got Chris Johnson all behind you. As Neil Jack goes into the pit lane. Yeah, look at this. Alistair's under pressure by Chris and Deck. This is interesting. Meanwhile, Luca and Lewis, they're very close to each other. This is spicing up quite a bit now, as Neil Jack straight onto the intermediate tyres, which is a bold strategy considering it's not currently that well circuit, but let him cook, I guess. Maybe the tyres and that instinct, but instance. So, oh, there's contact between Luca and Lewis. Lewis is round. He's lucky to really still be out of the barrier, but has cost him all the time in the world, and more importantly, he is now out of the DRS window as Chris Johnson gets past Alistair for P3. Could he be taking another podium in this league? He is currently the most amounts of podiums in TGP2 history, and he could be adding another one on to his already ridiculous amount of podiums. Red Bull Kim, meanwhile, into the pit lane. He's gone on to intermediate tyres. I don't think it's that wet out there to go on to inters yet, surely. Though I'm thinking if I'm Alistair, my tyres are going to really be starting to die. Grip is going to be non-existent on them, but you just can't pit. Yeah, it is not intermediate tyres. Mick Schumacher 3-second time penalty. He's currently in 8th. Look at this, Deck's all over the back of Alistair. This has been an awful choice as Mick Schumacher is round. He has gone round as that is Daniel, who has also gone round. What has happened between the two of these guys? Have they had a collision somewhere, or has it gotten really wet in that part of the circuit? What has happened between these two? It was like, I think Daniel might have just had an incident of his own there, as Alistair drops down to P5 now. He is, yeah, struggling on those soft tyres, not the strategy choice he would have wanted. But what has happened to those guys as Mick Schumacher's back on the soft tyres? Does he think it's not going to rain enough? As Lewis, by the way, back on Luca, so I'm not sure if Luca just like slowed back and kind of said sorry, or if Lewis just managed to gain back on the time. Here we go then. Lewis, he can't, at this point it's raining. You kind of want to make the most of the DRS. Is he going to break later than Luca? Round the outside. Who gets the better traction? Luca does for now, but will Lewis send it down the inside? It will sit behind for now. Deck, meanwhile, up to P3. Great drive from the Aston Martin. Great strategy as well. Jack Pearson, 3-second time penalty. We saw him go off behind these guys. Is Chris Johnson going to try and fight Deck here? But I don't think he's going to be able to make the move. The grip is getting worse and worse for these guys. However, I think that is more tyre wear than the track conditions itself. I don't think the track's wet enough. I think it is just the grip on the tyres are so bad. As Chris Johnson is the first one out of the top 5 to make a move on a different set of tyres, what will the Haas crew put on his car? This has been this is really exciting now. We've got 4 laps to go in this race. A lot of these guys are waiting it out for the track to be wet, but it's just not enough. He's going onto hard tyres. I don't quite think that's a great strategy. As Jack Craig onto the inters. If I was Chris, I'd have gone to the softs. If you really don't think it's going to rain that much, but he's gone for it. He's a bold strategy as Lewis still behind Luca and Jack Pearson now, probably I imagine catching up to Alistair quite quickly. Alistair, his tyres must be like, awful. Must be driving like on ice, especially with how the track is as well. Like the two put together just must be awful. As here goes Lewis Craig on the straight again. DRS is still enabled despite the rain as he takes the lead of the race, but Luca's going to hang it down the inside. He's going to force him off circuit there. Ooh, nearly. They're actually on circuit still, I think, there. As Luca's going to go around the outside. A little bit of contact, I think, there, but they're still going side by side. Who is going to come out on top? Is Luca going to send it down the inside? He does. Will Lewis be able to go for the switchback? He's certainly going to try it. He just can't get on the traction. And Luca just about defends it. Good driving between the two of them. Good racecraft between the two of them. Is the track wet enough for them to pit? If they're going to pit, what tyre are they going on? As Lewis wide again. They're staying out again. Do they think it's going to be hard enough? Dex goes into the pit lane, and so does Alistair. So these guys are making moves, but what tyres? You've only got a few laps left in the race. It is still dry, I'd say, but I don't know. Like, you're going to burn your inters up if you go onto them. Deck goes on to a set of mediums, I think that is, and Alistair is on to intermediates. So yeah, this is getting really tasty. We've got different sets of tyres. Jack Pearson onto soft tyres. Alistair, the only one on the intermediates out of the guys. There's a yellow flag briefly. I'm not sure who that was for, but wow, we have got a mixture of strategies going on here. And I tell you what, this could go really good for Alistair, or it could go awfully wrong. Yellow flag. I think it's one of the top guys here. Oh no, it's Red Bull Kim. As got worried then for a second. As we go on to lap 11 on the straight. How is... Oh, Lucas got DRS from Red Bull Kim, who's obviously gone for a spin as they go side by side on the straight. Will Lewis go and brake later? He's going to certainly try. He's given him the room, just about enough room. And they go side by side still into the braking zone. Luca goes deep into it. Lewis able to get the better traction. It's really getting slippery for these guys. Still side by side. Luca parked the bus on the apex. That's actually kind of worked for him there. Actually, I say that Lewis has managed to somehow gain the traction. Oh, Luca managing to just... I don't even know what's going on here. They're still going side by side. That was hard to commentate on. because they just randomly had burst of tractions and it just didn't work. Luca into the pit lane. What is he going on to? Jack Pearson, meanwhile, ahead of Alistair. These intermediates don't seem to be working right now. What tyres is Luca going on to, though? He is going gambling on the soft tyre. He is going for the dries then. He is not going for the intermediates. And you just start to wonder, has Alistair made the wrong move on those intermediates? He's not losing too much time to Jack Pearson though. As he comes out in P3. 2 seconds behind Chris Johnson. Yellow flag. Who is that for? That's for Mick Schumacher, who's parked in the middle of the circuit. Won't be an issue for anyone apart from himself though. So Luca now on the soft tyres, he's gonna have that grip. Currently in P3, but at the moment Lewis still out there in the lead, hasn't pitted though, and I'm starting to really think Jack Pearson 3-second time penalty again. That's his second. I think the guys who are on inters have made the wrong move, but in reality, I don't see them dropping much further. I think Jake might be able to get these guys, maybe Neil Jack, but apart from that, they're all with each other as Deck gets past Chris for what will be a net P3. What is Lewis going to do? Surely you're pissing this lap. Oh, he's sliding everywhere. Oh, he's sliding everywhere. He's like Rosberg with the gust of wind, apart from the fact it's not a gust of wind. It is the tyres. What tyres? He surely has to pit this lap. What tyres is he going to gamble onto, though? Alistair has started catching Jack Pearson. So maybe, as CJ all sliding about as well, how is Luca taking the corner? He's having to lift. They're starting to lift to that corner. I'm starting to wonder, maybe it is time for the intermediates. Alistair's overtaken Jack Pearson into P6. Lewis Craig has gone onto the intermediate tyres, so this now makes this race even more tasty. Luca is going to take the net race lead, but as Dex also going to get, he's Dex into P2, and Chris Johnson, will he be able to get Lewis? No, he won't. Lewis, though, I feel like he might be on the better tyre now at this point, because Alistair is catching Chris Johnson, so yeah, this is going to be really interesting, as Lewis, he is, I don't, is he catching? He's staying with Deck for now, but will it be enough to win the race? As it stands, Alistair's champion regardless, because he hasn't DNF'd, and he's in the points. Is that Luca going to get TRS again from the RB? It is. Interesting. Here goes Lewis. He is eyeing up a move on Deck. Deck, who is trying to win the title for Aston Martin. Lewis is going to down the inside, and Lewis, is he going to be able to get the better traction? They both get equal traction. Deck's going to go right down the inside. Lewis is going to say thank you very much. I'm going to get a cut back on you. And he gets himself up to P2. Now, he has got a lap to gain 6. He needs to get 3 seconds to Luca in general, and then another 3 seconds to win the race, pretty much. As who was that who went off? That was someone flying off the circuit there. I'm not quite sure who that was, but there was a car in the background who just went flying miles off the circuit. Nearly ended up in Atlanta as Alistair moves himself up to P4. He backs off there. I'm not. Why did he lift? Okay, really interesting like tactics going on. Tactics which I don't understand why they're happening. But Lewis, he is chasing down Luca. He is on the better tyre, so is Alistair. All Alistair has to do at this very moment in time is stay on the circuit and do not crash. Just do not crash and you're fine. Jack Pearson, another 3-second time penalty on those soft tyres. I think he'll be able to get P6 on circuit anyway. Yellow flag for someone. Red Bull Kim. Lewis Craig, he is trying everything to get this win. I think that's all he cares about, but it doesn't matter because he's got the penalty. So Luca is going to win the race, I think, unless he makes a really, really bad mistake. but I think he might even be able to win it on track at this rate. But Alistair up to P4. He gets past Chris Johnson. Will he be able to snatch that podium off Deck? I think he's going to be able to. He would love to get a podium on the race he wins the championship on. We're going to cut to the lead because Luca has ran really wide. Jack Pearson, 3-second time penalty. Will Lewis try and hang around the outside? No, he won't. Will he go for the switchback? He's surely got to send it. You have to send it from there. Lewis doesn't. He stays behind. Luca is the race winner here in Texas. Lewis Craig only just misses out. But it is Alistair who is your season 36 champion of TGP2. It's not been the best race from the Red Bull driver tonight, but it has been a phenomenal season from the Red Bull driver. He missed the first 2 races of the season, but he has shown up and he has shown the grid what he is made for. And he has shown the whole TGP2 community what he can do on a Wednesday night. And well, he is your champion for TGP2. And we'll have his name written down in the books of champions in TGP2. I believe this is his first time winning the championship. I think. I might be wrong. I think it's his first championship. So yeah. Meanwhile, I've completely forgot to mention it. Aston Martin Constructors Champions. We've got 2 champions decided here in Texas as Deck gets himself P3, which confirms him and CJ and Aston Martin as a whole Constructors Champions. They also get their names written down in the books of champions, and yeah, it's good race. That was actually really enjoyable as Luca jumps on the podium. He is very happy. I imagine he'll take that win. Manages just about to defend off Lewis Craig. If you look at the times, that's 84 milliseconds between them without the penalty. But as the Ferrari guys clap Luca on, he sprays the champagne on Lewis, he sprays it on Deck. Deck on the podium as a constructor driver winner. CJ and Deck are celebrating on the chat. I'm not surprised. So yeah, that is your race in Texas. Luca wins for the fastest lap in P1. Lewis Craig, P2, misses out on the championship tonight. Really good season from him though, regardless. Deck in P3, Alistair champion in P4, Chris Johnson 5th, CJ 6th, Jack Craig 7th, Jack Pearson 8th, Neil Jack 9th, Jake 10th, Jess 11th, Daniel 12th, Say Sports 13th, Mick Schumacher 14th, and Red Bull Kim 15th. I am now going to have a sip on my drink because I've been needing it the whole time and I've not been able to. So, yeah. Constructors title has gone to Aston Martin. I'm pretty sure I'm going to try and edit the Excel sheet just to see if I can do some maths. Actually, no, I'm not even going to bother. There's no point. Pretty much we know that Alistair has won the championship. We know Aston Martin have won the championship. Lewis, I think, has near enough cemented P2 in the championship with that race. With CJ not having the best race. If anything, Luca, maybe, might, no, I don't think he can get CJ. And then, in terms of, we're going to really quickly actually cut to it on the screen. It'd probably make more sense for me to do that. Williams had quite a good race. They only have one driver racing, don't they, Lewis? I think pretty much this is going to stay the same for the most. Ferrari and Haas is somewhere, and yeah, Ferrari and Haas we need to keep an eye on. What was the points with those guys? Haas had quite a good race. So did Luca though. Ooh, That makes it interesting going into this race then. There's only what was 30 points going into it. I think Ferrari's just about kept fourth. I tell you who, actually, I take all this back. Ferrari may have jumped Williams. Luca won. Mick Schumacher just raced in general. I think that's very close between them. It must be. I can't obviously check. I'm not going to do the maths because I could probably ask someone else to do it. Dom, if you're listening, you know, cheeky message would help. Yeah, I might be wrong, but that is a fight for P3. I thought Williams would be safely in third, but I just realised they're not. Anyways, going into Abu Dhabi, there is nothing really to fight for with the leaders. The top three are staying as the top three, unless CJ gets really quite lucky. Same with Luca. I don't think there was anything else really to fight for. Yuri's not raced tonight, so he won't be fighting Jack Pearson. Yeah, apart from that, it's just Williams versus Ferrari, I'm pretty sure. Apart from that, there's nothing really on the board to focus on, so it's just going to be pretty much a race for the fun of it, the final race of TGP2 for this season. But we return in May, I believe. So not too long, only 3-4 months. Which sounds like a while, but time flies. It'll be back before you know it. CJ disqualified for blocking the pit lane. Great start from the Aston Martin driver. I'm not quite sure if he was thinking about doing donuts and then or do donuts in the pit lane. You can't do that, mate. So that is CJ. Got in the way of Daniel though. He's getting in the way of everyone. Yeah, CJ disqualified from the session. Again, not quite sure what he's done there. I wonder if he's had that glitch where his wheel doesn't turn. It wouldn't surprise me. In which case he has been ridiculously unlucky. In what has been already quite a struggle with the race he had in Texas. He's again not fighting for anything though. He's won the constructors. It's not, to be honest, I don't think he's gonna like care too much, as he says this game is so beep. Oh my days. I imagine this is steering glitch. I shall ask. Just by the way, to confirm, it was her Wi-Fi, which was playing up. I'm hoping she didn't disconnect from the session. You should be okay now. Anyway, let's go on board with Alistair, our now official champion of the season. Here we go then, into the final corner, and we start the lap into turn 1, where Oscar Piastri and Max Verstappen collided last weekend. It's all clean so far from Alistair. Into turn 2, 3, and then a slight little kink into 4, and then hard braking zone, the Verstappen corner, some people call it, where he famously overtook Hamilton in 2021 to win the title, pretty much. And to the long straight. Now, just a long straight. You go up to 200 miles per hour into a heavy braking zone. These apexes are a nightmare. You clip that inside apex too much, your car's going flying off the circuit. But Alistair does a neat job of it so far into the old, well, I think it's the endurance racing, which is the start finish straight is for that, but we don't use that. And through turn 9, good exit from Alistair, and then into the final sector, 10, 11, and now 12. Sweep the car right, clip the apex on the left, and then the other apex on the left. Run the car wide. Be careful though, you can really invalidate quite easily for that corner. Into turn 15, 16, brake slightly, And onto the throttle, it is going to be a 23.4 from Alistair. A very good lap from the Red Bull driver. So we now go on board with... He's done that on me. I just clicked on. He's done that on mediums. He's ahead of Lewis. Wow. Okay, someone's been putting the laps on as Chris Johnson goes P4 with a 24.2. Wondering why I was struggling to read that. It's going to come full screen. Neil Jack then. Is Neil Jack ahead of... Yeah, he is, yeah. Neil Jack. Let's watch on board with this Haas driver. Neil Jack, who he's had an okay season. He is currently... Neil Jack, we're going to get there, get there. We'll get there. I need to be more prepared for this. Neil Jack, who doesn't seem to be on here. I think it's Alex. Yeah, Alex Coetzee. Even though it has Neil Jack in his name. His name's Alex. No comment. He goes across the line and gets 5th place. He's had an okay season. He's in 10th position in the standings, so not bad. To be honest, I think he will take this season. As Jack Pearson goes 7th. Let's watch on board with Deck. Deck, I don't know if we covered him last race. Decent season from him, joined halfway through the season, and he has done really well for Aston Martin. He has performed, he has helped CJ a lot through the season. He got 3rd place in Texas, he's had a fair few podiums. He hasn't won this season, though if he decides to turn up next season, I'd put him, he could definitely win a race if he just races smartly and maybe a bit of luck, who knows. But he only goes P7 on his first lap, bit of a messy lap from him. So we're now going to watch on board with, let's go on board with Mick Schumacher. Mick, who his actual name's Marco. He's always in the chat with Marco, and I've never called him Marco. I'm going to call him Marco tonight though, and I hope he doesn't mind it. So, Marco, again, he's had a decent season, I think. He's currently 12th. I think he deserves to be higher than that. He's had one fastest lap in a race, which says it all. He had a really good race in Italy, I think it was, which I'm sure the Ferrari fans absolutely loved. So yeah, not terrible season from the Ferrari driver. I think next season, if he turns up, I think he could definitely get a better result. He could get himself a podium or two. The season, the grid's so competitive that you can be rapid and still struggle to get a good result. I mean, look at the likes of Chris Johnson, Deck, Jake. I didn't realise he was actually quite good at this game. Qualifying in Texas showed that. And Dan, Dan, look at him. He's 3rd place at the moment. He has had, and in fact, I'm going to focus on him after I've done mixed segment, Marco segment. He's had a good season as Mick goes through the final sector, gets on the throttle well. So let's see if the Ferrari driver will make me look stupid with what I've said, or if he's going to prove that I'm right. We'll see as he goes through the final 2 corners in the race circuit. Across the line, floors it, and goes 8th place. He's on medium tyres though. Anyway, let's go back to the main man I was on about, Dan. What a season this guy has had. Like, he's 10th place in the standings, which I think is criminal. He has had really good races this season. He's been so unlucky. I think, again, it shows how competitive this grid is. He's 10th place, yet he has shown massive amounts of pace. He's had a podium. He's retired one race. He's lost 12 positions in the race. I think his quali pace is crazy, but I think he just loses it all in the race. I think his racecraft might not be the best, but yeah, I think Daniel deserves a fair bit of credit. I think he's probably been very under the radar. I know he's only 10th in the standings, but I think he has the pace. I mean, look at him. He's currently 3rd place. ahead of half the grid, as he is 3/10 up on his lap. That won't move him up anywhere. He will still be behind Lewis and Alistair as it stays, but it's an improvement, and it will keep him P3 as it stands. As he goes through the final few corners of the circuit, there is a yellow flag. Has he run out of fuel? Why is there a yellow flag sitting there? It's following him around. Huh? Okay, it's at 23.577, only 40 milliseconds off Lewis Craig. Why was there a yellow flag? That's so bizarre. Anyway, Alistair, champion of this season, is on a lap. I'm expecting a 22.9 at least in this qualifying session from these drivers. I'm putting them under pressure as Alistair comes through the final corner. Let's see if he can get that. 23.2 puts him, well, stays in pole by 3/10. Let's watch on board with the guy who was fighting Alistair up till last week for the title. A little bit of slipstream for Ferrari of Luca. He sets the fastest sector 1 of the race, the qualifying session. As we go on to the long straight, it's quite dusty out there. Very dusty out there. I don't know if Codemasters had intentionally made it look like there's a sandstorm, or if I'm not even gonna go there. Right, Lewis, let's see what you can do, sunshine. You are only 13 milliseconds up on your sector 2 time. That's not what you want to see, but then again, not fighting for a championship, not really fighting for anything. It's just a race for pride, and you know, a little celebration race. You know, you don't have any pressure on your shoulders anymore. Enjoy it while you can, because TGP1 starts soon, and well, I'm going to put a lot of pressure on you when we're teammates. So, as he decides to pit and goes into pits, as Marco rejoins the session, as Luca also pits. Did he set a lap? I don't know. Deck. Let's watch on board with Deck. 2/10 up on his lap. Don't run wide through there. That's not too bad. Only 2/10 up on his lap won't actually put him anywhere near Neil Jack. So maybe not the most strongest circuit for Deck. But you know, we all have weak circuits and strong circuits, so let's not put any like pressure on him. Again, he's not really fighting for anything anymore. He goes up to P7 though, so he gains 5/10 all of a sudden in the final sector. Impressive. Jack Pearson comes across the line now, and he will move himself up to P4. What a lap from the RB driver. I'm sure he's very happy with that. He's ahead of Luca. Yeah, good lap from Jack Pearson. And I tell you what, he might just be racing for pride as well, because again, there's not really a gap. You can't get Deck. Well, Yuri maybe would have been able to get him if he turned up, but he isn't racing. So we now are going to cut to Jake Warrior, a driver who I don't think I've gone over, but he's last race in Texas, showing he has pace, and at the moment P6. Let's see what this Albert driver can do. He is currently 21st in the standings. Well, was. However, good race tonight can move him all the way up to 17th if he gets a really good result. Which doesn't sound a lot, but again, he only joined like literally 2 weeks ago, I think it was. So you can't, like, the fact he's showing this pace is good. I don't know how many leagues he races in. He used to be a commentator a lot, so obviously that was his more strong point, I imagine, like most commentators, apart from me, of course. The greatest driver of all time in TGP. As we watch on board with Jake, he is 2/10 up on his lap times, so that'd put him up to P4, I think, if he nails the final sector. This goes into turn 12 and 13. Spin the car. Left clip the apex and the left clip the apex. You kind of want to like avoid that apex in a way. Sometimes it just spits you out. And then this corner is a nightmare. Again, if you run wide on that, your car's going into Narnia. Right, Jake Warrior across the line, moves himself up to P4. I said it would. What a lap again. These guys, I tell you what. Lewis is like, he's like the benchmarker really. Alistair's in a league of his own. Apart from like, remove Alistair, and you've got a really close top three of Lewis, Daniel, and Jake. As talking about Daniel, he's starting his lap. Let's see what the actual card to him. Let's watch on board with. Okay, we won't. Let's watch on board with Daniel, who again has been, I'd say, phenomenal. I've already talked about him. He is 3 tenths down on his first sector, which isn't exactly. It's not the best news you would hear. He's actually gone into none, so I presume he's now going to save his tyres. Let's now cut to who have we not spoken about? Who have we not spoken about? I haven't spoken about Jess. Is that it? I think I've covered everyone. If I've missed you, I'm so sorry. But I think through last qualifying and this qualifying, I think the only person I haven't spoken about is Jess, and she isn't on circuit right now. But I think we'll talk about her while watching on board with Luca. I think Jess, right? I think she's missed a few races, but at the moment she is. She's 15th. 15th place isn't too bad, and she has had some really promising races. So I think she'll be quite happy with this result. I think she gets 5 points per race average, and she's only completed 11 races. So again, attendance means a lot. So it doesn't show everything as Lucas hit the barrier Latifi hits. Somehow, no damage, and it wasn't invalidated. Interesting from the game as he goes 2nd place. I think that mistake might have cost him pole. But yeah, I think Jess, decent season from her. I think she should be happy and proud of that result. Let's now cut to Alistair, who's on a lap. Let's watch his final lap of a qualifying session in season 36. He's currently down on his lap slightly, and that little slide there won't be helping him. Let's see what his sector 2 is. Only 7 milliseconds up on his lap, but at the moment, he'll still be pole position, so you can't complain too much about it. As Alistair sweeps to the left, clips the apex, lovely there, run it wide a little bit, clip the apex again. Oh, he's Latifi'd it around, apart from the fact he didn't hit the barrier. He has spun in the Latifi corner, and now that is his qualifying over, and he will now have to hope for everyone else's downfall. Jack comes across him, but he's not on a lap, I don't think. Wow, champion. That's a very non-champion thing to do, as Jack Pearson has taken one hell of a line there. Let's watch on board with Luca. Is Luca going to do another lap? No, won't. Lewis, he's the only person at the moment who can beat Alistair then. But even he's not too much on his own lap at the moment. I think Alistair, despite the spin, is going to be on pole position. As we watch on board with Lewis Craig as he comes through the final few corners. Chris Johnson, by the way, I didn't realise had disconnected from session. He's joined back at the moment. 8th place is going to be where he starts. Lewis Craig across the line. Can he get pole position? No, he can't. He doesn't even improve. What about his brother? 87 milliseconds up. We'll keep an eye on him. What about Jess Bull? We were saying that she's had an okay season. Let's see if she can prove a good top 10 start at the moment. At the moment, it's 10th place. What will Jack Craig do? Can he improve on Jess's time? He is 4 tenths up. It won't be pole position, but it could definitely put him up the field, up to, oh actually I think it would only be P10, but you never know. As Jack Craig, his brother's been P3. He's had quite a lot of bad luck, I'd say, this season. He has shown many a time good pace, and it's kind of just fallen away from him this season. But can he end it on a high as he comes through the final corner? What will it be across the line? It's P7. Good lap from the McLaren driver. I didn't expect him to jump that high up. 7th place from Jack Craig. And well, that is a quality order and a half as Jack Pearson gets rolled into the pit lane. It is Alistair who is on pole position from Luca and Lewis. That's an interesting grid, that. It's very mixed up. Like, if you look at the championship, it's very mixed up. Obviously, CJ not being in the session, well, disqualified, doesn't help. Alistair then 2 tenths ahead of Luca from Lewis Craig. Normal top 3, but then you look below and it's just muddled up. Daniel in 4th place, great qualifying from him. Jake Warrior P5, I told you he has pace, 5th place, good qualifying. I think that's his best qualifying of this season. Jack Pearson 6th, Jack Craig 7th, Neil Jack 8th, Chris Johnson 9th, Deck 10th, that's very low for him. Jess 11th, Mick Schumacher 12th, Red Bull Kim 13th, and CJ with the game spitting his car into a barrier and disqualifying him from the session. Qualifies last place. I believe that's a glitch that she's had. Oh, it says he went a bit wide out of the pits. So yeah, it was actually a skill issue. No rain. I'd hope there wasn't rain. But then again, it's Codemasters. The clouds are out, but I don't think it's anything too threatening for the drivers tonight. Just hydrating myself before the inevitable dry throat which hits me every time. Let's wait for the drivers to select their strategies. We have a little peek. Medium, 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 soft, medium, hard, medium, medium. Well, we'll find out. Here we go. 3, 4, 5 red lights for the Abu Dhabi Grand Prix. It slides out and away we go. That has got a jump start, I think. But anyway, into turn 1. Who's going to lead out of Alistair and Luca? Luca's going to go down the inside. Squeezes Alistair off, nearly. Luca takes the lead. Good move from Luca into the lead of the race. Alistair P2. Lewis stays behind in P3. Is he going to make a move on Alistair? No, he won't, as they all go into the slow hairpinners. Look at all those moves going on in the midfield there. There's contact between Jack Pearson, Jack Craig and Chris Johnson. As we cut to the leaders again, as Alistair's making a move on Luca, and Lewis is having a little sneak peek as well. Is he going to go down the inside? He's going to sit behind for now. As Neil Jack going down the inside of Jack Pearson. There's a lot of Jacks in this fight here, but Jack Pearson comes out on top. Neil Jack stays P7 for CJ, makes his way up to P9. He's had a very good start. Meanwhile, cut to the start front guys again as they're trying to make a move for the lead. Alistair stays behind from Luca, but Luca's struggling to defend here, really. As Red Bull Kim and Mick Schumacher fighting out for 13th. They've not had the best start they wanted. But at the moment, exciting lap 1. As Luca then leads from Alistair and Lewis Craig is your top 3. We've actually got the top 5 all in this massive train, which is quite exciting. Could we have a 5-way scrap for the win as Jess overtakes Deck? Deck's going to try and hang it around the inside, and Deck defends it as Red Bull Kim has had a crash and is unfortunately out of the last race of the season. That is a shame from him. Hopefully we'll see him next season. CJ, meanwhile, up the inside of Jack Craig, up to P8. Will Jack give a little attack? I don't know. Okay, we're going to cut to the front as Alistair takes the lead. Is Lewis going to maybe have a look around the outside of Luca? He's going to send it down the inside. That's a risky move, Lewis, and he doesn't get the exit he wants. As now Daniel's going to make a move here. for P3 as they go side by side. Meanwhile, for the lead, Luca and Alistair. Luca defends off Alistair again as Daniel now into P3. As that is a very wide Jack Pearson in the background as well. This is a really entertaining fight for the win. It's only lap 2. These guys are so close together. It's like no one can really like no one in the leaders cannot pull away from the guys behind. At the moment, everyone's in DRS from Jack Craig upwards. Is that a bit of front wing damage just sort of fly into the sky? I'm not quite sure. As Daniel, Neil Jack, fastest lap of the race. There you go. That just proves how close this grid is. As he's down in P7, getting the fastest lap of the race so far. What are the tyres? I had a little look at them. Mostly everyone on mediums apart from Jake. Interesting. CJ, 6 places gained on the start. Miss gained 1. I'm not really too surprised about that. Saying that, it's 3 laps in. That's actually really quite impressive. As here goes Alistair on Luca. Should be an easy move from the Red Bull driver. Maybe not, as Daniel's having a look down the inside. We'll watch on board with wing. Oh, Luca's gone really on the inside line there. And I think Daniel, he has taken P2. As it's a drag race now. Who's going to break later and who's going to be ahead? It looks like Luca might have just burnt a bit of ERS to stay ahead of Daniel there. But, yeah, Daniel's looking really racy and pacey tonight, isn't he? In P3, he's fighting for the lead of the race at the moment. Which I'm sure he will be delighted to hear. So the DRS train now goes to P8. But I think it is slowly but surely separating. But still, we've got the top 5, I'd say, all definitely have a chance. It's Jack Pearson, I wonder if he has some sort of issue with, I presume he's on controller. He really seems to struggle with staying on track. I mean, what is that line, Jack? Blooming heck. It's not a line you can take normally. I wouldn't be surprised if you got a penalty for that. That's outrageous. I'm going to presume he's got an issue. So there's no way he thinks that's an acceptable line and that's the line he intends to take. Meanwhile, we go back to the leaders. Will Luca make a move on Alistair? He won't. Daniel breaks much later than Luca, as Jake and Jack are fighting out. Jack Pearson being Jack. As they've fallen out of DRS, there's a yellow flag somewhere in the back. I think it is his deck. And Jack maybe having a crash as the guys in the lead side by side. And I think they're going to go side by side going into the final sector. But Luca just managing to come out on top. As the thing with Jack and Jake, they've fallen out of the DRS now. So it's now just a 4-way scrap for the win. One which, again, I won't complain about. I would love to see someone like Daniel get his first win of the season. That would be absolutely brilliant, especially on the last race. So, we start lap 5. We've got 10 laps to go in this race. And I think if I'm Daniel, I'll happily take a podium. But I would be even happier with a win. I think obviously everyone would be. As Alistair's making a very early move on Luca. Is Luca's going to send it down the inside? He's going to hang it in the inside. Just can't get the exit though. But who has DRS though? Alistair does. And Luca doesn't. But no one seems to be wanting to make a move on Luca, apart from Daniel, who's going to try to go down the inside. Can't make the move stick for now. Lewis is there. I didn't even realise he was there. They're going side by side now. Alistair's had a terrible exit. Meanwhile, it's all kicking off at the front here. As Luca now will take the lead of the race. Will Daniel be able to also capitalise on it? He's going to go down the inside. He now goes into P2. Alistair hangs it around the outside though. Who's going to get on the exit? It looks like Daniel's got a better exit. But Alistair's just managing to get it somehow. And somehow they stay where they were. But Lewis is going to go down the inside. That is a crazy move from Lewis if you try to pull that off. These guys are all so racy with each other tonight. It's brilliant, as Jack Pearson and Neil Jack and Jake Warrior and CJ and Chris Johnson all now part of this train for the win. Look at them all file through. But yeah, it's mostly the top three who will be fighting. Jake Warrior pits. Now this is interesting because he pits. He's now going to be on the better tyres than everyone else. He'll have clear air. No way could he come out in the lead of this race. Like crazy. As Luca letting Alistair through to get DRS as Daniel. He looks so much quicker than Luca at the moment. Who gets DRS? Alistair does again. I really don't get what Luca's trying to do here as Lewis fighting Daniel here. Daniel's going to go down the inside line. That's not going to end well. Daniel, if you're going to hang it in there. Oh, there's been contact. And that's a lot of time lost from Daniel. And that might have just separated the leaders from the rest of the pack. As meanwhile, Jack Pearson also took a really rough line there. Yeah, unfortunately, I think the leaders might just be escaping from the rest of the pack now. I say that, they all caught up as Neil Jack and Jack Pearson have a bit of contact, and that, here's Lewis Craig, a 3-second time penalty. These guys, there's big contact, massive crash. Oh my god, what's just happened? Alistair spun and he's collected Luca, and he's collected Lewis Craig, all three of them, into the barrier. Luca, somehow, I don't know if he tapped Alistair round or what, but wow, okay, that's a big crash. That could have happened in last race as CJ pits. He has no damage though. Lewis Craig definitely does though. And where is Alistair in all this? He's fourth. Does he have front wing damage? Surely he does, as he's going to try and go down the inside of Neil Jack. He doesn't, somehow, as there's the yellow flag for Jack Craig, who is looking in the wrong direction. It's all kicking off here. Meanwhile, this would have helped Jake, who, just to remind you, has pitted, as Jack Pearson going for the lead of the race. I don't thought I'd say that again tonight. Jack Pearson into the lead of the race. Lucas going to try and go for the switchback though. He will have DRS and he's going to have much more ERS than Jack Pearson. As here we go onto the straight. They go. And I think Lucas is going to take the lead of the race once again. Neil Jack now in a podium position. As there's another yellow flag. Jack Craig looks like he is struggling a bit out there, unfortunately, for the McLaren driver. What? I'm shocked with what happened. Alistair he spun round. I don't know if Luca tapped him round or what, and Lewis unfortunately became the victim in that. So did Daniel. That's caught me off by surprise. It's really woken me up. Jack Craig leaves the session. I think that is his race over. Jack Pearson pits. So does Chris Johnson also pits. Alistair staying out, so he must not have damage. Now, this is going to be interesting. Where does Jake come out in all of this? Because if he comes out ahead of Jack Pearson, then he's pretty much net leader. I tell you what, if I'm Jake and I'm seeing yellow flags ahead for that lead pack, I'm getting a bit excited. I'm thinking, as he sets the fastest sector 3, he's got a chance of winning this now. As, yeah, he's miles ahead of these guys. Miles ahead of him. Jake Warrior, who only joined the league a few weeks ago, could be on for a win. I'm not jinxing it, but he's going to be on worse tyres. But, okay, interesting. This has gotten very, very tasty indeed in this race. Neil Jack staying with Luca on pace. What, meanwhile? Will he be able to manage to get himself a win? Anyone can win this now. As CJ gets past Jack Pearson for P7, CJ might be the winner of this as well. Don't take him out. Blaster first could definitely be on after that crash. Jack Pearson loses out the place to Chris Johnson. Does he have damage or something? His pace isn't looking exactly quick all of a sudden. Yeah, that crash probably highlight of the race. Well, it will be, that's for sure. Meanwhile, will these guys pit? Surely you've got to start thinking pitting at this point. Top 3 stay out for now, though. As Jess Ball, by the way, P4. I said that she's performing well. Has she done a pit stop? She hasn't, but nevertheless, Deck. He's done a pit stop, hasn't he? Has he done a pit stop? Jack Pearson, 3-second time penalty. Has he done a pit stop? No, he hasn't. Okay. He is actually last. Fair enough. CJ fastest lap of the race. I told you he is coming for that win. He might have not won the championship. He might have lost it in quite rough circumstances, but he wants this win meanwhile. lap 9, and it looks like Alistair might ruin Neil Jack's party today. Here we go into P2. Will Neil Jack fight him for it? He sits behind for now. He'll wait for the next DRS zone. He's gotten the better exit. I do wonder if surely one of these guys have got damaged. Like, they were the ones who caused that massive crash. And I think they somehow gotten away unscathed, but penalties might be applied. We will find out from these guys. Alistair looking a bit quicker than Luca. And I tell you what, if Luca was the reason why Alistair went round, then Alistair won't be playing very nicely with him. He will want revenge, and I wouldn't blame him as Chris Johnson passed CJ. I'm intrigued to see when pit stops come out where everyone's going to be. As top 2 stay out. Neil Jack comes into the pit lane. Again, interesting to see where he comes out in all of this. He was, at the time, sticking with the top 2. And I honestly think Jake Warrior is in the lead. Not by too much though, because Chris Johnson, CJ and Jack Pearson all catching up to him. Jake Warrior, miles ahead of the Haas driver. This could be a new race winner tonight. As here we go, on to the straight again, Alistair and Luca once again. We should really not be focusing on them too much. They're not really fighting for much apart from the odd point. But we should be watching this fight for P5. On track, probably net P3. Because look where Neil Jack is, 4 seconds behind. He has fresher tyres though, going into these last 5 laps. And tell you what, this result could be anyone's. It could literally be anyone in this top 8, I'd say. As CJ on the back of Chris Johnson, is he going to make a move? I don't think so for now. He's going to sit behind. He does. But I think Jake Warrior is actually, I can't just get my head around that fact. He is in the net lead of this race all of a sudden. I told you that might work, and it has worked, I think, so far. Luca into the pits, Alistair into the pits. So, this is now what the grid is going to look like. I presume Dex surely here now. He's staying out, okay. Wants to lead the race for pride, I guess. As here goes Luca then into the pits. None of these guys no front wing damage whatsoever. As they're going to come out the pit lane, and I believe, I'm going to say it, Jake Warrior goes into the turn 1. He is miles ahead, everyone miles ahead from who were both leading this race. Oh, Alistair nearly hit the barrier there. They are miles ahead. At the moment, this could be between Jake, Chris Johnson, and CJ. I would have said Jack Pearson, but he just can't keep it on track, can he? So, yes. Here we go. This is the fight for the win. Jake Warrior, Chris Johnson, CJ. Who is going to win this race? Or will Jack Pearson somehow magically win the race? Luca, P6, 3 seconds behind these guys, by the way. It's not over for him. He's on soft tyres compared to some of these guys' hard tyres. Jake's tyres, I imagine, are quite old, quite worn. As Chris Johnson going to trying to go around the outside of Jake Warrior. Here he goes, brakes later, around the outside. The Haas driver goes. Jake Warrior going to try and defend the inside, but the Haas's tyre wear is just so much more superior. He now takes what I believe is the net lead of the race. He now wants to make the most of these tyres. He knows Jake's tyres are going to be a bit less useful compared to his. He wants to get that gap, but Dex stays out again. I don't really understand what Dex doing here. Yeah, we're gonna see what happens. Wonder if Dex maybe gonna help his teammate out, CJ here, because CJ is in this fight for the win. Just remember, CJ, 1 penalty, that's it. It will probably be a new winner, presuming these guys don't catch up in time. As here goes CJ. He's gonna try and go around the outside of Jake. He does. Jake backs out. He's down to P3 on circuit. Well, net P3. As here goes CJ on the back of Chris Johnson. It could be a last to first from CJ. Pretty much any result which happens here is going to be a phenomenal. I can't talk. Good result. As Jake had a look on CJ, can't make the move stick. Meanwhile, Lewis has gotten past Jess for P9. That's not how this season ended. that Lewis wanted. Meanwhile, here we go, fight for the lead again. CJ going around the outside of Chris Johnson. He takes the net lead of the race. As Chris Johnson going a bit, went a bit slow there. Tell you who is going to go slow up now? Deck, who is now going to surely help his teammate out. I really don't get the strategy from them, but theirs, I guess, is a strategy. Jack Pearson will have a 3-second time penalty. As Deck does stay out, he is going to probably try and help his teammate out to the win here. In fact, he just lets him through. CJ, fastest lap of the race. He is pushing. He wants that win. And I'll tell you what, Luca, he has 2 laps to catch up into the DRS and then make the overtakes on everyone, which is the hardest part of it all, as CJ backs off to try and get DRS from Deck. Now we saw this and it didn't work for Luca when he tried it with Alistair. Obviously he didn't mean to do it with Alistair, and it didn't work again. It did not work, and now Chris Johnson's going to have DRS, he's going to have the ERS, and this might actually be a move for the lead here. If he doesn't make the move, I would have made that move. Alistair makes a move on Luca. Meanwhile, these guys are fighting, despite the fact they could both help each other here for a podium. They're still going to fight it out. As we go back to the leaders, and it's going to be 3 wide between them. Who's going to come out on top? 3 wide between the 2 Aston Martins and the Haas. Aston Martin getting kind of sandwiched between them, but Chris Johnson takes the lead of the race. Jack Pearson also going around the outside of Deck. Oh, there's a bit of contact there. And for now, as Jack Pearson's trying so hard to get past, as Deck's going to send it down the inside of Chris Johnson. Jack is going to try his hardest to get past Deck as well, because he wants to still somehow be in this fight. Jake, he needs to be careful. He's got Alistair all over the back of him. Alistair and Luca gaining time out of nowhere. Neil Jack 3-second time penalty. That's not what he wanted after leading the race at one point. Is now in 8th place. I need to get a breather really quickly. Alistair gets past Jake for what will be P4 and now P5 as Luca makes a move on Jake. I think even if Jake doesn't get the podium, driver of the day for me or Chris Johnson, or this week CJ's done a Master first, isn't he? Is Chris Johnson. He didn't get DRS from CJ. CJ's trying to break the DRS out of it. There goes Alistair on the outside. He was barely on the circuit as Deck's going to send it down the inside. Try and hold them both up as he's now unfortunately... Oh, that was ridiculously close from Deck there. He sent Jack Pearson flying into the barriers. Chris Johnson still got DRS meanwhile, as we're going to go on to the final lap. Who is going to win? Is it going to be CJ? Is it going to be Chris Johnson? Or will it be our champion, Alistair, who has driven really well despite the spin, as Deck gets passed by Luca, and he will get disqualified if he doesn't pit this lap, so he might want to maybe pit this lap. He hasn't really done much apart from just getting in the way of this what has been a brilliant race. I'd say it's maybe race of the season, just purely by the chaos which has happened. Deck pits, that is his race, would never happen in Deck 3-second time penalty. Again, I think he's going to be 11th anyway, I think. But who's going to win this? We've still got 3 drivers, as Jack Pearson's just making a whole new circuit now. I'd like to see that in a proposal. Who's going to win this race? I don't know if anyone's watching. If you are, put your predictions below as we enter the final lap of the race. Chris Johnson having a little lag spike there, which might have put Alistair off a little bit, might have also distracted CJ. Here we go. DRS open. He's going to try and make the move on CJ. Is he going to go down the inside, or is he going to sit behind? A bit more lag going on between the pair of them, and Chris Johnson sends it down the inside of CJ. CJ can push Chris Johnson through. Mick Schumacher 10-second time penalty. That's not going to matter. CJ has the DRS. Chris Johnson has the inside line though. Here we go. On to the final straight. Who's going to have the inside line? It looks like CJ's going to have the inside line, but Chris Johnson's going to try and go around the outside. They go side by side into the long hairpin, very long hairpin indeed. They go side by side again, and it looks like CJ might have just taken the lead. Chris Johnson going to try and make a move as the Ferrari's getting in the way. What is he doing? We've had this situation before, but it is going to be CJ, who has somehow done a last to first race. It's been a phenomenal. He's won the race in Abu Dhabi. I've given up speaking. He has won in Abu Dhabi. Chris Johnson, brilliant race in P2. Alistair P3 after the spin. Luca P4. Jake Warrior P5. Jack Pearson P6 might be lower because of the penalties. Neil Jack P7. Jess 8th. Lewis Craig 9th. Deck will get P10 as he slowly weaves about the circuit, and Daniel will get P11. Are we going to see donuts from Deck here? I think we might. Here we go. Donuts for the Aston Martin driver. They have won the Constructors. We won't see the same from Alistair because the game doesn't let him do donuts after the end of the race. But that is your TGP2 Season 36 Championship over and done with. Alistair is your champion and Aston Martin are your Constructors champion, if you couldn't tell by the fact that Deck is doing donuts to the fans of no one, apart from those guys over there who probably can't even see him. Apart from that, there's no fans. He's meant to do it on the start-finish straight, but he's obviously got no fans to have cheering in for him, I guess, which is quite a shame, really. Really no mates. There he goes. Now he knows where to blooming do the donuts. And yeah, that is it for season 36. What a season. I really enjoyed doing this. I hope I get to do this next season. I want to thank Dom, and Jack for letting me commentate on these races. I honestly have loved every little bit of it. This grid is so close and so yeah, it's been crazy and I've loved it. I've really loved it. And CJ, driver of the day, I agree with that. Last first. Yeah, top job from him as he goes on the podium. He was saying he had no pace in Texas. It wasn't the best qualifying from him in qualifying here. In fact, he got disqualified. But he is top step. I think he started the season with a win and he's now ending it with a win. He sprays his engineer in Champagne. He has won. Chris Johnson will get a brilliant P2 and Alistair, obviously the champion, in P3. That is an incredible podium. I'm sure Chris is probably a little bit gutted. In fact, he is. But to be honest, P2, I'll take P2. CJ then wins from Chris Johnson. Alistair gets third place after the spin and fastest lap at the same time. Luca P4, Jake Warrior P5, good race from him. Jack Pearson P6, Neil Jack P7th. Jess 8th, Lewis Craig 9th, Daniel 10th, Deck 11th, Mick Schumacher 12th, Jack Craig 13th, and Red Bull Kim 14th place. So that is TGP2 Season 36 over and done with. I really enjoyed that. Like I said, thank you to Dom and Jack for letting me do this. I've really enjoyed it. I hope I have permission to maybe do it next season. I also want to thank Cam when he joined in the booth. Really good fun doing it. I'd say my commentary's gotten better since the first piece I did by myself. I hope so anyway. I know I'm not the best, but I try, and today has definitely not been my best. I literally got in the door half an hour before, so I apologise. It's not the most energetic and best commentary you'd ever have gotten from me. But like I said, thank you to the guys who let me commentate. Well done to the drivers. Well done Alistair, Deck and CJ for their championships. Condolences to Lewis and Luca and CJ. CJ missed out on the title, so did Luca and Lewis. So yeah, that is TGB2 done, over and done with. We'll see you. I think it's in May. I'm hoping I'm right when I say it's May. For what will be season 37, which I'm sure will be entertaining. It will still be on this game, I believe, unless EA decide to go, well done, we're going to make it earlier and make it even worse. It's coming out in April, but I really doubt so. So yeah, we will see you all for what will be TGP1, which starts next month, I believe, in January at some point. Any information, just go on to TGP's Twitter or the website. So at TGP Series. I believe the website is in the description of the stream. If not, just go on at TGP Series on Twitter. There'll be a link there and you'll get all your information and stay up to date with the TGP series. So, thank you all for watching. Thank you all for joining me this season, and I will hopefully see you very soon in May, hopefully, or whenever TGP2 starts. Thank you all for watching. Thank you for joining me. Have a good night. Safe travels, everyone.